So Joe, Karl, thank you very much for joining me in this little endeavor. I wanted to kind of do a round table about what your experiences are with the last couple of months where we've had kind of a different kind of marketplace because of the coronavirus. I'll start with my experiences. I've definitely felt like coming into this year that we were going to have a huge market. It seemed like spring market was coming very early, which had me really excited. And then we hit, late February, early March, and all of a sudden it starts to level out. What do you guys think?
My biggest thing that really changed this year is I've always been used to, East Cobb, West Cobb, school districts, Walton, Leicester, Pope, all being kind of micro markets. And I think I've seen a massive shift to a neighborhood specific level where one neighborhood has increased 10, 12, 14%. And literally across the street, we've seen the equivalent neighborhood drop, 10, 12, 14%. And in Atlanta, we've never really seen a market like that in recent times. And I think the biggest thing that everybody needs to think about is instead of waiting for the entire, Roswell market to increase or the entire Cobb County market to increase, you have to be very specific on your neighborhood, what's happening in your neighborhood, so you can really gauge the situation on, is my house really increasing in price? Is it decreasing in price? I'm seeing it's a lot of where our neighbors keep her. If somebody has to get out of a home or experienced a job loss or changes in that way, if they have to sell their home and sell it rapidly, that will directly impact your home where it really hasn't been like that in the past. So it's just created a very tight niche market, whereas before it was a much broader market. It's one of the biggest changes I've seen, to date in the Atlanta real estate market since 08, 09.
Yeah, Joe?
Yeah, I agree with you, Karl, a lot with that. I'm seeing that. And the irony with everything is we did have such a strong first quarter. And, again, and I'm talking large.
First month.
Yeah. Well, but even then it did help because, April was down quite a bit. Yeah. May was flat as well. But, you remember we had discussions at the end of the first quarter, or actually by the end of April, the entire market was only down about 10% because of how strong the first market was. Mm-hmm. Even though April as a whole, we were down to 26, almost 28%.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, and then focusing on that, I've got areas that are selling, 2 and 3 days, like Karl had mentioned, if they're priced right and in good condition, because it's either flying off the shelf or it's sitting there collecting dust. And I'm seeing that in several areas as well.
I find that pricing more than ever is really key.
Absolutely.
It's a fascinating marketplace because, like you said, the inventory is so low, so it's even more advantageous for a seller to be putting their property on the market right now because they have less competition, which
Correct.
Is always great if you're a seller. But also, there's not a shortage of buyers because interest rates are the lowest that they've been in the history of
history.
Yeah. Could we ask for any better situation, really, all the way around? I don't think so.
And Atlanta's just always been an incredible marketplace to begin with, and now it's
still
really,
one of the top 4.
It's amazing. Yeah, it really is.
I think it's presenting a lot of good opportunities for people as well, with investors kind of backing out of the market at this point. Everybody kind of holding their cash off to the side, so it's allowing people to get into some of these, $250,000 houses as an entry-level home where they would be fighting cash investors previously. And I think there's a really big opportunity that's created to sell your home in the 2s, 3s, and 4s for absolute top dollar with really not a lot of repairs. Absolutely. And upgrade to something larger or maybe more expensive or an area you wanted to be that you really couldn't afford. The mid-level market is really, really climbing. Oh, yeah. So it's really presented a dual market opportunity to where if you really wanted to be in an area, a neighborhood, or anything that really was outside of your budget, I think those are becoming more and more available to people to move up and upgrade.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, you made a great point. One of the listings I just closed last week started right in the middle of all this stuff. We had a contract from an iBuyer, a big investor, and of course then they pulled out. Mm-hmm. And so we went live on the market had another investor was interested, right? Well, the margins, they weren't happy with making just a 50% profit. They wanted more and stuff. So after dealing with 3 different investors, the 4th time was a charm, and we actually sold it, just like you said, to somebody who wanted to come in, fix it, wanted to be in that school district, and have it as their own home, put the money into it and enjoy the equity themselves.
It's really given a lot of people the opposite. You know, everybody was panicked in the beginning of this, like, everything's going to crash, nothing's going to happen. And I think it's taken pieces of the market out that were in existence, the iBuyers, the Zillow buyers, all of that stuff, and just given people opportunities that didn't exist. And I think our market is going to slightly shift going forward in a permanent level, where iBuyers and things are really going to take a step back, and it's going to allow the traditional independent investor to get back in, the first-time home buyer to get back in to a reasonable level, where most of Atlanta was over $350,000 for a first-time home buyer. I think that's retracted a little bit and made the market more affordable for the general consumer.
Absolutely, and I'm seeing that a lot too, because now my strategy, where I used to use that as a marketing tool, hey, let's get a cash offer. I don't think that's a good strategy at all for the sellers I'm dealing with. I'm just like, you know what, let's open it up, because like you said, there's more buying power out there now. People can afford more, and I think it's going to be a better opportunity.
And despite where prices are at in the marketplace, from a national level, you've got to remember that Atlanta is still one of the most affordable marketplaces in the nation. So even though, for relatively speaking, Atlanta is as high as it's ever been, it's still a fantastic time. I had a buyer that I had a couple buyers that hit right at the right time, and going into the home buying process, they were looking at 1 monthly mortgage payment, and then everything happened with the rates that it did, and at the end of it, their mortgage payment ended up being about $300 less than what they thought it was going to be. And I got to tell you, as a real estate agent, that's a great phone call to have, when you get to call somebody who's like, yeah, you know how you thought that you were going to be spending like $1,200-$1,300 a month? It's going to be $900 a month to get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. But
could you rent something for that?
Yeah, I think so. But thank you guys very much for joining in on this conversation. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
Absolutely. This was very good. Thanks.
Bye.